whatever personal reasons, and because of that, I'm able to go into certain stuff and talk about and report on stuff that literally is happening right now and things he's talking. Like, I'll give you an example. Like, I'll give you a quote, literally a quote from him. Hold on a second, let me.
By
That
the
he
way, while
said,
you're doing that, we have
yeah,
like 2,000 people already. That's great.
yeah, no,
People want to hear.
absolutely. Yeah, no, hold on a second. This was, I wrote in my Substack about how he wants to arrest Obama. So it started out as a ploy. It started out with how are they going to try to figure out to distract from all of the Epstein stuff, and then he flipped. Then when Tulsi gave him some information, and then he was told that by Pam Bondi that it could be manipulated into a way where there might be a treason charge, because there's very few things that they could go after Obama or these people on that they wouldn't be maybe protected by his own Supreme Court decisions that they did. So they had to go. And when he got the nod that there might be a way to go around that, and that's why the treason is the word that they keep using, he was quoted as saying, my source told me, "Those scumbags raided my house at Mar-a-Lago. They tried to throw me behind bars. You wait, Obama's going to go down for treason. You'll see who ends up in handcuffs." So, I mean, it's crazy to think that if that could actually happen, but from what I'm hearing, from what I'm seeing, like, he needs to give his base the red meat, because just the fact, just a name or something is not going to help. This whole thing, they're not buying it. He's going to need, maybe it might not be Obama, it might be Comey, it might be Brennan, it might be one of, Lesser, which is also, head of CIA, whatever, some big names. But just like even with your own stuff that you're going on, I mean, my source have been telling me, like, he is obsessed. I know he talks about now everybody hears, but he's obsessed to do away with your pardons, to go after the January 6th committee, to go after certain people in there. I mean, literally obsessed and doing everything. And I know these people very well, just like you, James Comer and all of them. So that's why when they go out there and all of a sudden you see James Comer saying, we want to subpoena Maxwell, this, folks, is not a thing to discover the truth. This is a way to cover up, bury the truth. This is a way to find out what she has and take control of her. And the crazy part is watching, which the media, nobody's talking about. You know what, Adam? Do you understand how close Todd Blanche, which we're going to get into in a second, is with Marcus, Maxwell's attorney? They're buds.
Yep.
Todd Blanche went on his podcast not once but twice,
Wow.
talking about how great of friendship they have, and discussing him working for Trump, and even subconsciously. When Blanche signed the paperwork to go see Maxwell, he filled it out as not as the assistant DOJ, as Trump's personal attorney,
Well,
because he's yeah.
Well, let me just say, because I want to go back and make sure people know who Todd is. I'll just say this: you talked about how the Epstein stuff was a religion, and this is where people like you and I think, are really good at shedding light to folks that haven't kind of played around in this conspiracy stuff. I paid attention to it. I never bought into it, but I paid attention to it because I saw what conspiracy was doing to the party, and but this, like you said, this was a religion. They used it as a stand-in for, Democrats, because every Democrat in the world was on the Epstein list. I've been accused of being on the Epstein list. You've been accused of being on the Epstein list. And of course we aren't, but that was a stand-in for it. The other interesting thing, by the way, is calling your opponent a pedophile and not a real pedophile like Donald Trump. If you call your opponent a pedophile who isn't, that's a very Russian thing, by the way. That is what the Russians do as a way to discredit opposition. And it's interesting how now all of a sudden, we've been using, I say we as Republicans have been using collectively, Russian talking points. But for, again, those that are catching up here. So, Maxwell was basically, I guess, kind of the fixer for Epstein in terms of getting girls and all this kind of stuff. She's in jail. She's serving a term. And all of a sudden, there's this concern that she's going to come and speak out. There's some belief that actually this Donald Trump letter, where he signed his name as
I'm hearing it was her.
Pubic.
I'm hearing it was her that sent the letter.
Yep, me too. And that was as a warning to say, basically, the theory is, pardon me and I won't talk. Don't pardon me and I'm going to talk. Why don't you tell people now? So Todd Blanche is there meeting with Maxwell. Why don't you talk about who Todd Blanche is,
Yeah.
how you know him, and then your concerns on this?
Yeah, let me give you a quick 30,000 about Todd Blanche. So he used to be the ASU at the Southern District of New York. All going back to the Southern District of New York. When he left there, he started working for a very big law firm. I forgot the name, but it was a right wing Republican law firm, primarily clientele. And he jumped on, and his big break was the Manafort case. He jumped on with Kevin Downing to join their team and be Manafort's lawyer in New York. And he was successful in actually winning the case, the double jeopardy case for Manafort in New York that they tried to prosecute him with. So when I got arrested in Virginia, me and my partner, we were first. Trump gave me his lawyer John Dowd. He had Jay Sekulow sign the release paperwork for Trump to allow Dowd to represent me, but he also gave me Kevin Downing, who was Manafort's attorneys. But the case was out of the Southern District of New York, so we needed New York attorneys, and this is when all of a sudden, what's his name, Blanche comes into the picture. But at some point while I was in prison, a lot of you that might know the whole story is I received a postcard underneath my door from the White House from Rudy Giuliani telling me to trust Manafort's lawyers. Everything's going to be good. Manafort only got 7.5 years. At that point, I started to literally go crazy and flip and say, understand that I was now being used as a scapegoat. And when I got a different attorney, prior to that, I was being told by Blanche and Rudy and all of them that just keep quiet. We'll take care of all of this. And then Trump, Rudy would tell me he's going to pardon you and everything is going to be la di da di. But when I decided that I'm going to come out and speak truth to power, and I made my decision, Blanche turned from being my friend to becoming my enemy, my adversary.
And
He
by the
can
way,
take.
real quick, we saw
Yeah.
that on a lot of the January 6th people that would come in that would kind of turn against Trump, and all of a sudden their quote unquote free attorney became not so great.
Right away, exactly. Right away, the attorney, and he right away, but started defending my partner Igor because Igor was still a part of the mega, where decided to stay quiet and work with Trump, and through Igor, he was able to participate in my case, even though I was we stopped all the cooperation between attorneys. So he started first by going into the media by trying to discredit whatever I was trying to say, but not benefiting his client, but benefiting the real client, who was Donald Trump, even back in 2019, 2020, when we got arrested, prior to him even joining Trump as his lawyer. And then came an interesting part of where he showed his true colors, and where I'm going to link it to what he's doing now. He showed that he's a real fixer because at some point, me and Igor got subpoenaed by the impeachment committee, the House impeachment committee for Trump's first impeachment, to divulge all our records. So when we went to court to the judge, because all our records were under seal, because Bill Barr was trying to seal everything, because it wasn't about arresting us to get to the bottom to the truth, it was about shutting us up and burying the information. So we had to go to court to get the documents to hand over to Dan Goldman and the committee. And guess who pops up? Todd Blanche. Not to benefit his client in any way. It had nothing. All of a sudden, comes in and starts fighting us in court, not to be able to hand over my document, not Igor's, not anybody else, my text messages, my documents over to the impeachment committee that I was subpoenaed to do. And we were blessed that my lawyer kicked his ass several times in court, and that's why we were able to prevail. And out of the 300 impeachment evidence articles against Trump, 100 of them are mine. We were able to hand them over. But that's what Todd Blanche is. Todd Blanche is not a trial attorney. You guys saw that in New York. He embarrassed himself going up there in the whole Stormy Daniels case, and lost. That's why Trump is a convicted felon. It is what it is. He's a fixer. He's a deal maker. He's a guy that goes behind, and that's why he's being sent in. Not Pam Bondi. Just think about it. It's not Pam Bondi's going to see Maxwell. He's going to, because A, he has the relationship with her attorney Marcus. B, we know that when it comes to child predators, when it comes to these nasty human beings, they don't have. It doesn't matter what color you are, doesn't matter what religion you are, doesn't matter what party you are. We have them on all sides; they're all over, and we know that in this whole Epstein debacle, there's going to be Democrats, Republicans, independents, foreigners. There's a whole mishmash of people, and that's one of the reasons why it's been covered up by both parties, Democrat, because look, it's funny how the Democrats scream right now, release the files, release the files. They could have released the files when they had it, but it is what it is. And so life, we do understand that there's implication. We have to be ready to accept whatever implication there are but with that said, right now what's happening is the first thing is he's going to find out what she's willing to talk. Because
Yep.
remember, Maxwell is not a stupid woman. And when you have a lot of information, the difference between her speaking, a lot of people I know go out there and say, well, she could have spoken before, now she's speaking. Well, let me explain to you two things. First of all, somebody needs to want to listen to you. For instance, when I was there, I wanted to speak. I was screaming, I want to talk about Donald Trump. And you know what they told me? We're going to supersede you if you keep talking about it. We don't want to hear about that. So nobody was offering me a deal to be able to talk about Trump, Giuliani, because they did not want to hear it. They opposite wanted to bury it. So same thing with Epstein. Nobody was going to offer Epstein, not Epstein, Maxwell, a deal to get out of prison to be able to get, because there was a lot of people and it was going to be a shit. They wanted to bury her. They wanted to put her away. And it didn't matter what side. If she were to willing to talk, even back then, part of the deal is you have to say everything.
Yeah.
So she might have to implicate herself on things that they might not even know about, because if they catch her lying, there goes her deal. So it's a very, very intricate, difficult situation when you're trying to negotiate a cooperation deal with the Southern District of New York, with telling them everything. But this is where it's different now, because now Donald Trump doesn't want to hear everything.
Right.
Donald Trump doesn't want all the information. Well, now Donald Trump, and that's why what's his name is Todd Blanche is there, is to put a narrative. This is what I'm scared of, Adam. That the narrative is because he needs to give his base red meat. If it's Clinton, if it's Obama, because these are the names I'm hearing, that it's big enough word, because he needs to try to distract from the real thing is that he's all over that list, and that there's other people that he's protecting that are on that list.
Donors, friends. Yeah.
Donors. Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Well, that's interesting. So, do you think in your mind this discussion with her is basically so obviously the feds aren't putting a deal on the table. So for people that are watching that have never been through this, I had to on a grand jury once testifying about somebody, which is you basically sit down with the FBI or the feds and you say, here is everything I know, and you leave nothing out. And so they're probably not there, as you're saying, to push that. Probably, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, they're putting on the table maybe a pardon, a commutation to shut the F up, right?
Well, I think it's going to be strategic, and I'm going to say it here on your Substack Live, and it's taped, so we'll see. We'll go back to it. That's what I love about Substack. You can go back and see who said what. So, what I'm hearing, and knowing Blanche, he's very creative. They're not going to pardon her, definitely. They'll transfer her over to their special divisions and prisons for people that are so confidential, informants, such, for whatever reason, they don't even the guards don't know who they are. They're under numbers. It's very, you see, like in Otisville where I served time, there was a part there. There's very few people there, and you won't
Is it
even
like a
know.
witness protection kind of?
Like a witness protection, exactly. It is. It is. It's part of, because when they get out, you don't even know when they're out. Like she could get Maxwell. If Maxwell gets out, you won't probably know it. You know what I'm saying to you, until it leaks 4 or 5 years, or she's seen somewhere later, or it's somehow. But it won't be like, here's the doors where Trump's gonna pardon her, and because remember, he still has his mega base that are hardcore about the child trafficker and what's it called, the pedophilia. So it's a fine line, and that's why he sent in Blanche, because this is where Blanche is good at, because he knows the system. He used to be one of in Southern Dish. He knows how the BOP works. He knows where they could put her, how they could do it, and he knows her attorney very well. This is also the same attorney that was very close with another Epstein attorney that died, not that has anything to do with it, but Roy Black that just passed away. This another Florida attorney. This is all the same group. These are some very powerful people that run in the same circles.
Man, it's crazy. And it's like that's the thing is, we because the other thing too is keep in mind when you have attorneys talking to each other, there's attorney-client privilege. So it's not like there's any kind of really chance outside of that group that we're ever going to find out what they talked about, what was put on the table, unless somebody within the administration hears and leaks. But yeah, that's pretty it's
Well,
pretty interesting. So all in all, and look, here's the thing. You had mentioned how like, Democrats that I think when I look back on it, like I didn't even get into the Epstein stuff because I'm like, okay, look, probably killed himself. And I'm assuming the DOJ is going to press forward and charge whoever they have evidence for. But it wasn't me and it wasn't the Democrats that made this the issue since 2019. It was that they made this a religion. Again, everybody is on the Epstein
yep.
list. They were all accused of it. And now all of a sudden they caught the car and they're trying to figure out how to deal with this. So, with kind of the time we have remaining, what's your biggest kind of hope out of this? I guess. By the way, somebody asked what happened to my beard. I go through different phases, so I look younger without it. So I'm trying it a little bit.
You look
But
great, brother. You look great.
thanks. But
uh,
why don't you let everybody know like kind of what's your biggest hope? And by hope, I don't mean like you're giddy, but just like accountability, whatever it is. And then what's your kind of biggest fear, particularly with this meeting of what happens?
Well, let me go through my fear first, because the fear is that, from what I'm hearing and from what I know and how well I know all of the players that are involved in what's happening right now, there's a narrative that's being played out, and you have it coming in from a lot of different corners. You have Todd Blanche that is going to go see her directly, his relationship with her lawyer, their meeting in Tallahassee with no ASUs like Comey and others that should be there. They were part of the case. So everybody understands Blanche is not up to date on any of the information in the case. This is a strictly they're going there to see what is she willing to say. Simultaneously, and this is where you know better than anybody, you have Congress, you have the Oversight Committee playing the charades because you got James Comer and the crew of Jim Jordan, all of them that don't want the truth. They never want to come down. They're trying to, again, paint the narrative, maybe suppress some of the information, because right now they understand they have the power. They have the control of the purse, as they call it. So that's why they're coming out also, subpoenaing Maxwell and the documents, and because they want to take control of the situation. So my fear is that Trump is going to use this in a way to be able to try to change the narrative and give his base some red meat by either, as I'm hearing, arresting somebody higher up, maybe not Obama, but Comey or Brennan or somebody like that. Uh, or indicting Obama, maybe not even arresting him, but do what they did to him, open up an investigation, have them indicted, and have him, maybe not even the perp walk, but have him go through that whole mugshot thing, because in his mind it's also revenge. Adam, he's a sick person, narcissist, and for him it's about revenge, getting back, and certain people like even you, me, and others that there's a list that we talk about. It's real, and that's why every time he talks about it, you can't just think about Biden, certain names are always in his vocabulary, no matter who is said. So that's my fear, that the media is so complicit that we take our eye off the ball. But my hope and what I'm happy about is that we have right now this huge community that we're building here on Substack. And that's right now we have millions of people, and it's growing day by day. And our voices and the things like this by going together on live, and people are joining forces and before he comes and tries to shut us down, that if we get big enough and loud enough and clear enough, that there are people in Congress, not everybody. every one of them are Trump supporters. Not every one of them. There are real Republicans that are, for whatever reason, we're not going to spend the time now, are either personal, either they're scared, either they sold their soul, but they're not hardcore. They themselves don't like what Trump is doing. And some of them are talking out, like Massey and Bacon and others that they're talking out. So it's not like we're that far apart. And I feel that if we keep the pressure on and let him do what he's doing and not take our eye off the ball with the distractions and keep the pressure on the truth, I think that we might start seeing more cracks, not only in mega base, but in actually where it matters, in Congress and Senate, where all of a sudden, because look, nobody's telling them to change parties or vote on policies that they disagree on. Well, my message is, join forces to save our democracy. So this way, you guys then could continue voting and having debates against, right, left, or, because right now he took that away. We don't talk about Roe versus Wade. We don't talk about constitutional issues. We don't talk about the things. I mean, we got Americans being ripped off the street, thrown in concentration camps, like alligator Alcatraz. Every day, now we're talking about all of a sudden, but we know Donald Trump is a sexual predator. He's been convicted of it by E.G. Carroll. It's factual. He's a convicted felon. We do not need to go see another video of him doing something fallacious. So that don't let them distract you by those. But the important part, it's Mega's kryptonite. So that's why we got to keep it up there.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why, for anybody that follows me on Twitter, I repeated the tweet, Don Jr.'s tweet, where he's begging for, he calls everybody scum that doesn't want answers. And then I fill up, I do a tweet that just says Epstein over and over again. And because it drives him nuts. And you can tell by the comments, and I don't read comments usually, but I kind of enjoy reading those comments because people get really triggered. And just to back up on something you said before we shut this down, by the way, if you don't follow Lev, follow Lev. If you don't follow me, follow me. That's the thing about Substack, is it's creating this network effect. And what I get asked all the time, and I'm sure you do, is, what can we do? We feel helpless, etc. Right? Look,
Yep.
this is the most important thing. You got to take the burden to save the world by yourself off your shoulder, because you aren't going to save the world by yourself. I'm not going to save the world by myself. Lev's not going to save the world by himself. But all of us together can. Whenever I was done with church when I was a kid, they always said, many hands make light work. And that was a way to get everybody to put their chair away, for the next church session. And that's what it's like in democracy, though, is understanding we all have different views. As I said at the Democratic National Convention, this is a, sometimes awkward alliance between the sane right, the center, and the left to defend our democracy. And that's what Substack, I think, facilitates. It facilitates conversations. I learned a lot by talking with you today. And I also know that the people love it. I mean, we have 3,500 people on this live, and there's going to be countless more that watch it recorded. So I think the people want us to do this again. So we'll have
Well,
to do
definitely.
it. But my man, it's great chatting with you.
It's great chatting with you, my brother. And also, our next one, we're going to go into dive deep, because you're a true hero with the support you do for Ukraine. And because that's one of the things I do. I have a show called Voice from Ukraine, where we bring it live on this platform. And next time, I'd like for you to be our guest and for us talk about some of those stuff, because there's a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes. And I got some incredible sources when it comes to Putin, Zelensky, and that whole thing that will break it down. So definitely, thank you for having me, Adam, and everybody. God bless us, God bless America, and we need to save our democracy. Let your voices be heard. Don't let
Slava Ukraini.
Slava Ukraini. Героям слава.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care,
Bye-bye.
brother.